What's going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Stevie P today. It is Sunday, week 6 of fantasy football. Normally on Sundays, we do our ranks either Saturday or Sunday. I am going to switch it up a little bit today. And instead of doing ranks, Kevin actually is not going to be with us today. It is that time of year where, you got family engagements. He's actually got his kids. He's taking them to a pumpkin patch today. So you just got Stevie P. It's not going to be a super long podcast. I just want to talk about some of the players that I really like today. Go over some quarterbacks that I feel really confident in today. And go over some, tight ends, defenses, wide receivers, and some running backs. I'm not going to go over the top guys, all the guys that you're starting. I'll go over guys that, you're thinking about and things like that. So, first quarterback I want to talk about is Kirk Cousins. Really like Kirk Cousins today. He has a really good matchup against San Fran. San Fran actually today is coming to Washington for a 1 o'clock game, which is really 10 o'clock their time. So they got a little bit of that jet lag. Plus, they went into overtime last week in another away game in Indianapolis, where we all saw what happened in that game. And I kind of feel like it's going to end up hurting them, and Kirk Cousins could go off. He's coming off a bye week. They're very rested and raring to go. So I could see Washington go out to a big lead and Kirk Cousins have a big day. But, the 49ers, if you've watched the 49ers this year, they do fight back. And, I could see it being a game where Kirk Cousins could have over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. So I like Kirk Cousins this week. The other quarterbacks that I kind of want to talk about is Phillip Rivers. Really like Phillip Rivers today. For me, he's a top 10 play. He's actually got, one of his weapons coming back in Mike Williams this week. Mike Williams not a guy I'm going to recommend you play because, it is what it is, and he's coming off of an injury. But, definitely somebody you want to stash and see what happens. Me and Kevin have been talking about that for a little while now. So, for me, somebody you definitely want to pick up. But Phillip Rivers today has a nice little matchup going against the Raiders. They are going to be home in this game, which honestly is not really, to me, an advantage. The Chargers have basically been having the other teams' fans in their stadium rooting for other teams, which sucks. But, that's kind of what happens when you move into a new stadium. So, like Phillip Rivers today, like Keenan Allen to match up with him. I could definitely see Rivers going for over 302 touchdowns. Definitely a top 10 guy for me this week. Some honorable mention guys that I want to talk about today is actually, let me pull this up. I actually had it here, but I really kind of like some of the quarterbacks you wouldn't suspect. Trevor Siemian is one of them. I like Trevor Siemian this week. Going up against a terrible, Giants team. A lot of people are, think about last year's defense when they think of the Giants, and it's just not the same defense anymore. They are basically decimated, with injury. Olivier Vernon's not going to be there, so Trevor Siemian, they could give him some time, and if he gets some time, I could see them jumping out to a lead. And C.J. Anderson, is another guy that I'm really really high on this week. Could have a nice stat line at the end of the day. So Trevor Siemian, throwing to Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. I also like Darby, their tight end in this game. Trevor Siemian to me is, definitely another, top 12 guy. Maybe I would have him at 11 or 12. So somebody that I feel like you can get in your lineups and is gonna score some points tonight. Yeah, so like I said, Trevor Siemian I like. I'm gonna pull this up real quick. So, I know a lot of people are high on Brissett this week. To me, I don't know if game script on that game is actually going to be a high scoring game. For me, I'm kind of staying away from that one. Don't really like too much going on there in that game. I kind of feel like that's going to be a running game. The running backs could get off in that game, and something that I'm not very interested in. Marcus Mariota is the last quarterback I want to talk about. If he plays and, they're going to use him the way he should be used, I like Mariota in this game. But I honestly don't think he's playing. For his playing style, he needs to be able to move and get around. And from what the coach has been saying, they need him to protect himself. And if the coach is saying that, he needs to protect himself, it doesn't sound like a confident coach to me, ready to put his, all-star quarterback, his franchise quarterback in the lineup. And if that's the case, Mariota is not somebody that I am going to take a chance on, unless you have like Brissett, which I just said I really don't like Brissett in this game too much. But if you wanted to take the chance on waiting on Mariota, you could do that. Me personally, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play, one of my other options, or somebody off of the waiver wire. Even Case Keenum. I know a lot of people don't like Case Keenum, but for me, Case Keenum is a quarterback that you could play this week, and it's probably going to give you top 14 production. Instead of waiting on a Mariota that is probably not going to play, and then you have to play Brissett. Green Bay could jump out to a lead in that game, and if that happens, it is what it is. You're looking at gangbusters of having to throw the ball in that game. I think that could be a sneaky high scoring game, so I like that game. I'll just mention Deshaun Watson. We were talking about him the other day. Deshaun Watson against Cleveland, obviously it's a great matchup. So, if you have him, play him. Me in a league, I have Tom Brady and Deshaun Watson, so obviously I'm not benching Tom Brady for him. But, I have him ranked at 5 today. So, there's only 4 other quarterbacks that I would rather play than him. So, if you have him, play him. Going to get into the running backs now. There's just a couple guys that I want to hit on. Le'Veon Bell, Kareem Hunt, those are all guys you're playing. You're starting your Gurleys, your Fournettes, your Freemans. You're starting all those guys. Guys a little bit lower down that I think could be RB2s this week that I like is Alvin Kamara. Really like Alvin Kamara in this game. Last game he had 10 touches, 10 receptions for, I believe it was 70 yards. Actually, I'll bring it up. Excuse me, guys. But Alvin Kamara he was on the bye last week, but the week before that, had 5 rushes for 25 yards, 10 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Finished with 25 PPR points. For me, I really like Alvin Kamara in this game particularly. I could definitely see a game where Detroit has to come back and Alvin Kamara be a big contributor to that. Catching the ball and getting his team into scoring position. I also like Mark Ingram in this game. With no AP, I think those rushing touches go not split in half. If let's say AP was getting 9 carries a game, which he wasn't, he was getting 9 snaps a game. So let's say out of those snaps he was getting 7 carries. I would definitely move to the side of Ingram getting 5 of those carries and Kamara getting 2. So with 5 more carries, Ingram could be a good play, especially today. I really like both of those running backs, and I have them, both of my top 20. So they're definitely RB2s for me. And Ingram could actually be an RB1 in this game. A low end RB1, I could consider him. Other running backs I want to talk about. Marshawn Lynch. We've been telling you guys to buy low on Marshawn Lynch. Now, I watched the tape again of this game, and I'll tell you what. I have been on the bandwagon of Marshawn Lynch buying low, but I think I am finally getting off that bandwagon. After watching this past game, I really like Jalen Richard. I watch it, and he just looks like the better player to me. I definitely think Lynch is going to have, a contributing role. He's going to be the goal line guy. I don't think he's going to lose his job. I definitely still see him getting 10 to, 12 touches, what he's been getting. But I could see Jalen Richard really starting to get some more carries and just completely, them negating Washington. I just really like what I'm seeing from him. To me, he looks like a player that is, getting the rock and looking good. So I really like Jalen Richard, and it's making me worried about Marshawn Lynch. So, it is what it is. Carlos Hyde is another running back I want to talk about. A lot of people are worried about Carlos Hyde with the whole Matt Breida situation. For me, I watched that game, and Breida looked like the better running back last week. I do think that had something to do with the hip. I know, Kyle Shanahan came out and said that had nothing to do with it, and blah, blah, blah. But for me, just watching that, I saw a completely different running back than I'd had seen in the previous 4 games. He looked like he wasn't hitting the holes as hard. I do think that hip was bothering him. The hot hand situation is a problem, but I believe in Carlos Hyde's talent, and for me, I like Carlos Hyde, and I'm gonna ride him in this game as an RB2, and think that he's the better running back talent-wise, and he's gonna show that on the field. So I like Carlos Hyde. If you got him, start him. Running back that I hate this week is Mike Gillislee. For me, I kept ranking Gillislee at number 24 because of his touchdown upside. And the more I'm seeing Deion Lewis play, the more I'm just seeing that Deion Lewis is a better football player. Deion Lewis is a better player than Gillislee. And for me, I don't like having guys on my team that are so touchdown dependent, especially in a PPR league. We talk all the time and tell you guys that we are a PPR podcast. And, Mike Gillislee in PPR really is not been that great. He's, with that one exception of that first game, he's running back 28. And, he had a 3-touchdown game, guys. Like, he had a 3-touchdown game, and then he had a 1-touchdown game the week after that. Since those 2 games, the guy is getting 12 for 31, 12 for 49, 12 for 52. You know what I mean? He's not contributing in the way that you need for your fantasy team. So, to me, he's a touchdown. He's a touchdown or nothing. You know what I mean? You can't get 5 from your RB2 and expect to win. It's just, you have to have Le'Veon Bell scoring you 30, 40 points for your RB2 to get you 5 and you win. You know what I mean? So, why have that headache? Honestly, in this game, if he goes off, let's say, because it's possible, he's had a 3-touchdown game. I don't see it happening, but in this game, let's say the Jets give up 2 touchdowns to Mike Gillislee. If I'm a Gillislee owner, I'm selling. I'm immediately trying to get whatever I can for him. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver, even a high wide receiver 3, and a running back. Somebody who's down on Amir Abdullah or something like that, because I just can't see myself, wanting to run Gillisley out there in my lineup every week. I just don't want him. So, very down on Gillisley. The next guy that I'm on this week is actually Samaje Perine. In the beginning of the season, I drafted Samaje Perine in every single draft that I was in. Just watching what he did in college, I really like the kid's talent. I like his low center of gravity. I like the way he ran through holes and hit holes and, bounced off defenders and really fought for every single yard. And I haven't seen that this year. But this week, there is no Fat Rob. Rob Kelly is out this week. So Samaje Perine getting a chance against a not really good San Francisco 49er defense. I could see, him getting 15 to 20 touches in this game. And against that defense, that could be 80 yards and a touchdown, and I like that. So I'm starting Samaje Perine as a RB2. If you need an RB2, and definitely throwing him in my flex if I can. Like him a lot this week. Duke Johnson has been having a pretty good season so far. But I just want to read off these numbers to you guys. Duke Johnson right now is running back 15 in PPR scoring. The problem that I have with that, running him out there, and right now for me is another trade high guy, sell high guy. I think he's the most talented guy in Cleveland, but that doesn't help, anything. Being the most talented guy on a bad team is, it's whatever. So for me, Samaje Perine, Duke Johnson just, he's not really getting you anything in the rushing game. He hasn't had a game of over 30 rushing yards. He's had 2 touchdowns rushing in the past, 3 weeks. But he's not getting you anything in the rushing game, basically at all. In the passing game, other than, week 3 and 4, where he played Indianapolis and Cincinnati, he really hasn't had a game over 3. He had 6 in against Indianapolis, and then 9 catches against Cincinnati. The 6 catches for Indy was 81 yards, and then the 9 catches with Cincy was 47 yards. And then last week he had 3 for 63, but he had 1 touchdown. So for me, just somebody I'm selling high on. If he doesn't get a touchdown in these games, his numbers are just okay. He needed 9 catches for 47 yards, right? And then he had 14 yards rushing, but then he had a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like, it's not production that you can really bank on, because he's had games where he's catching 2 and 3 balls. So if he doesn't score a touchdown in those games, he's not really as good as he's been so far. So for me, just somebody I'm kind of staying away from. In the games where he didn't have, more than 3 catches, week 1 and 2, he scored 4 and 11. So he has that floor of 4 points. So, and coming up, he's gonna start playing some really tough defenses. This week he plays Houston. Next week he's got Tennessee, which, that's going to be probably a good matchup for him. But then he's got Minnesota, a bye week, Detroit, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, the Chargers, Green Bay, Baltimore, Chicago. For me, I like maybe 3 of those games. So sell high on him and don't start him this week. I just really don't like him this week. If you don't have any other option, have fun. But for me, I just stay away. Stay away, guy. My next player and the last running back I want to talk about is Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon this week I love. Love Jerick McKinnon. I can't say enough loves for what I like for this guy. If you guys are FanDuel and DraftKings players, the guy is like 4,100 on DraftKings and like I think 5,600 on FanDuel, which is really low salary. Maybe 5,400, which is a really low salary for a starting running back. And guys, he is starting. If you watched the game last week, he just looked so much better than Lat Murray. It wasn't even funny. In a game where I think they're going to be trailing, and Lat Murray, he catches the ball, but if you watched Matt Murray last year catching the ball, he was horrendous. He caught the ball and ran 2 yards and got tackled. I think he had the lowest per catch average for any running back in the NFL last year. So not a guy that they're going to throw out there to throw the ball to, especially if they get down in this game, because Aaron Rodgers just goes bananas. And, for me, if you're a gambling guy or a girl, you should know that Green Bay hits the over on road games like every time. It's like the most crazy thing I've ever seen. If you pick Green Bay away, pick the over. Like it's almost a guarantee that it's going to be the over. I've never seen a team hit the over so consistently on the road that Green Bay does. They literally hit it all the time. It's outrageous. But so really like Jerick McKinnon. So if you got him, you're playing him and with confidence, definitely. Let's get to some wide receivers. Wide receivers I like this week. Let's pull them up. So wide receivers that I really am, gunning for this week. I know this is going to be annoying to some of you guys. Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, we told you guys is a sell, is a buy high. Buy low, I'm sorry. Is a buy low guy. And the 100%, I'm going to put my stamp of approval on this one. And if I'm wrong, guys, I'll do a punishment. You guys tell me what punishment you guys want, and I'll take my punishment. But I think Amari Cooper goes for 80 yards and a touchdown at least this week. With as much as he has been getting bashed for his play, he's got Derek Carr coming back. I'm going to caveat this. No punishment if Derek Carr does not play, if he plays terrible because his back is hurting. If Derek Carr has a really bad game, then you guys can't blame me for Amari Cooper. Because, if Derek Carr has over 225 passing yards, Amari Cooper's going to have 80 and a touchdown. Okay? So let's put it that. Let's put a stamp on that. Casey Hayward is going to be on Michael Crabtree. So I think, if you ask me, Amari Cooper is going to have a good game. I see 80 yards and a touchdown. I love him this week. I have him in probably 99.9% of my FanDuel lineups and DraftKings lineups. On my DraftKings GPPs. In FanDuel, you want guys who are going to score touchdowns, and I think he's definitely going to score a touchdown this week. He might score 2. That's my bold call of the week. Amari Cooper over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I got him penciled in for 80 and a touch, but if I'm going to go bold, my bold call is over 120 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Mark it in the book. The other wide receiver in that same game, Keenan Allen. Love him. Love Keenan Allen this week. I know last week he threw up a stinker, and honestly, a stinker for Keenan Allen is 4 for 67. So in a PPR, he still got you double digits. Season long, the guy's getting you double digits every week. He was 14.5 in week 1. He was 19 even in week 2. He was 11.1 in week 3, 18.8 in week 4, 10.7 in week 5. And then going up against Denver, I really like him in this game. And, play him with confidence, 100%. Going to be really good today. I can see him over 100 yards receiving, with a touchdown, definitely. Adam Thielen is another guy I am sold on. Sold, ladies and gentlemen. There is no Stephon Diggs. They're going up against Green Bay at home. To me, Thielen is going to be heavily targeted. Green Bay is going to, like I said, they always hit the over. They're going to score points. Minnesota is going to be throwing. And Adam Thielen had some pretty good games against them last year. I can definitely see him with no Diggs having a really big game this week. I say over 80 yards and a possible touchdown with at least five catches. So 5 catches, at least 80 yards, and a possible touchdown for Adam Thielen. I like him a lot in this game. Let's go to our next guy. Our next guy I want to talk about is going to be, let's see here. We already talked about Cooper. Terrell Pryor. I like Terrell Pryor this week. If you guys have Terrell Pryor, you guys saw how he played last game. He had 3 for 70 and a touch. I was telling you guys how much I like Cousins this week, and I can see Pryor getting deep on the 49ers and scoring a touchdown. So, at least 70 and a touchdown for Pryor for me in this game. Demaryius Thomas. Okay, so Demaryius Thomas has been not so good this year. He's had 9 targets in every game but one this season, but he hasn't scored a touchdown. So he hasn't been bad, but he has not been, good. Like we know Demaryius Thomas to be. I like Demaryius Thomas in this game particularly. I don't think there's a shadow situation with Janoris Jenkins. Eli Apple has given up the most touchdowns to wide receivers in the league so far. I believe that number is 4. He might be tied in the league. Actually, he is tied with 4 touchdown passes given up. And I can definitely see Demaryius Thomas scoring his first touchdown in this game. So I'm going to go with 93 yards and a touchdown for Demaryius Thomas with 6 catches. It's pretty exact. So we're going to go with that. Another wide receiver. We're going to talk about some low-end wide receivers here that you can start this week and are going to help you. Tyler Gabriel. Like Tyler Gabriel this week. No Sanu. Matt Ryan is going to be lighting up the Miami Dolphins this week. Like Matt Ryan this week. But, Matt Ryan's a top 5 play almost every week. So, didn't talk about him. But do like him in this game. Tyler Gabriel, I think, in every game that's a new or Julio Jones did not play last year, I believe he scored a touchdown. There might have been one game where he didn't score a touchdown, but I believe when one of those guys was out, he had at least 70 yards and a touchdown in every game but one. So I like him this week, and if you have him and need some, wide receiver help, why not go with a guy who has a good track record of playing well when wide receivers are hurt? So the last wide receiver I want to talk about is Danny Amendola. Gronk is back, and I know a lot of people don't like playing Amendola when Gronk is back, but I can see Amendola having a good game here. I think Tom Brady is going to go bananas. He doesn't really have a good track record of playing New York and scoring a lot of points against the Jets in New York. But this is a completely different Jets team, and I know a lot of people are like, ooh, they won their last 3 games. What are you talking about? They won their last 3 games. 2 of them were home games, against a team. Okay, so Jacksonville, if you stop Leonard Fournette, which basically they did, he still scored a touchdown, but he didn't go over 100 yards in that game, and, rushing. And, they basically kind of shut him down, in the rush game. And Blake Bortles is terrible. So, you can't really go with that, you know what I mean, for their defense. I mean, you can't even compare Blake Bortles to Tom Brady. And then they played a Cleveland team that we all saw what the hell happened there. They played Cleveland in Cleveland, but, DeShone Kizer was just, he's just a guy that likes to give other teams the ball. He saw green jerseys in that game, was like, ooh, here, take it. He just threw it to them. So, Tom Brady is a different breed of quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. He's going to go to the Jets and just throttle them today. I can see Tom Brady going for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns today. He's probably my number 1 or 2 quarterback. And the only reason I say that is because Drew Brees going up against Washington, these are guys that you don't, I didn't talk about earlier because you're going to start them no matter what. But, Drew Brees going up against Drew Brees going in, staying home and being against the Lions, Drew Brees just after a bye week at home or in a dome period is like basically 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, look up the stats, guys. Like, it's retarded. It doesn't even make sense. The guy after a bye week, every time he plays at home or in a dome, not just at home, but in a dome, off a bye week, the guy throws for nearly 400 yards. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it's like 380 something. And basically like 3.8 touchdowns. It's like ridiculous. It doesn't even make sense. So, I love him this week. And, that's just going to be, he's going to throttle them. But anyway, Tom Brady's going to go bananas. I like Amendola. Tight ends. I'm not really going to get into all the tight ends. I'm literally just going to talk about 2 guys that I like this week. I like Austin Hooper. If you guys look at the stats on home teams that have high total, Vegas totals, basically the way Vegas does it, I don't know if you guys, bet or gamble, whatever. They do implied totals. So basically the way you figure out an implied total, I don't want to get into crazy. I just want to explain it real quick so you guys can a little bit understand it and use it for your fantasy knowledge. Basically what happens is you get a total on the game. So let's say the total is 50. And, the home team is supposed to win by 12. Okay? So basically what you're doing is you're taking the 50, you're splitting it in half, right? And then you're moving it up and down by 12. You know what I mean? It's a little bit weird to explain, but they're supposed to win by 12 and score 50. So you're talking, whatever it is, 28 to... they're basically saying they're going to score 28 points, at home this week. I think their over-under is like 45 or something like that. So they're supposed to win by 12 and a half, I think. I think they have the highest total, or I can't remember. But whatever it is, I could look it up. But basically, their implied total, I looked at it earlier, is going to be, I believe, 28 points. So they have them scoring the most points of any team. So if you want fantasy players on those teams, so like I said, you definitely want Austin Hooper in your lineup if they're going to score 28 points, because I think he has a chance at a touchdown and maybe 50 yards. And if anybody has been paying attention to tight ends this year, they're freaking terrible. I mean, you can't get a consistent game out of anybody. You got even the top guys giving you zeros. And, so if you can get 40 or 50 yards and a touchdown, you're happy. So I definitely can see Austin Hooper having that. The other guy that I want to talk about is somebody lower that might be on the waiver wire. I just talked about how much I love Drew Brees this week. And I know Colby Fleener, everybody hates his guts because he kills you. But I like him this week. I think Fleener could score a touchdown. If you look at Fleener this year, At home, he has a touchdown. They only had one home game so far this year, and he had 33 yards and a touchdown. I just like that he is going to be targeted against a defense that gives up the most total yards to tight ends. And I know last week they played Cam Newton and, Ed Dixon went for 175. So that kind of skews, the yardage their way. But regardless of the fact, Ed Dixon was like wide open last week on like 3 or 4 bombs. And, he just made them look terrible. So, for me, Colby Fleener is a better tight end than Ed Dixon. So, I like Fleener today. Defenses, I'm not really going to get into defense. We really don't. We just kind of rank them we kind of rank them. But, if you needed a defense, hopefully you picked up Washington this week. I've been talking about this game. I think the 49ers are going to struggle. Washington could have an interception and a touchdown, a couple sacks. I just like Washington this week's defense. The Baltimore Ravens are another defense I really like this week. With Chicago going to Baltimore with, Mitch Trubisky starting the game, I could see, the Ravens, throttling the rookie and introducing themselves to a rookie quarterback. The Broncos are obvious. They're playing the probably worst offense in football now with no Odell Beckham and no Brandon Marshall. So, take it as it is. It is what it is. They're going to get throttled. So, that's basically what I got today, guys. If you have any questions, hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter. On Facebook, you can hit us up at 4th and Inches Podcast, Fantasy Football Podcast. And on Twitter, we are 4th and Inches at 4th and Inches Podcast. No, I'm sorry. On Twitter, we are 4th and Inches FFP. So, the number 4 TH and then inches FFP. So, hit us up, guys. Ask us any questions you might have, and we'll get back to you. Enjoy football today, everybody. Good luck to your fantasy teams. And hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe, and listen to us every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday or Sunday. We let you guys know depending on our schedules. So peace out and good luck. Happy Sunday, everybody.